Welcome to Icthus, everybody, boys and girls. Thank you very much for coming. 1 Corinthians, we're going to carry on from last week. Give him an Icthus round of applause. Good, so you're Blake?
Yes.
Definitely, that's confirmed. Right, so what do you do? Where are you from?
I work for a church in the centre of town called Holy Trinity as the youth worker. It's my full-time job. I come from New Zealand originally, so the Rugby World Cup is safely in my hands. Yeah, grew up there for the first 18 years of my life.
Good, so what brought you to Cambridge?
I came to Cambridge to study. I studied biochemistry for 4 years at Corpus Christi in the centre of town. And that's kind of the driving force, yeah. But it's quite a fun transition, biochemistry to youth work.
Yeah, so talk us through that then. Obviously you're doing youth work, so at some point in your life you decided to be a Christian or probably work in your life. How did that all happen?
Yeah, so I was about 14, 15, and my parents had absolutely no Christian input in my life whatsoever. It's quite airy-fairy in my household. But I had some new friends at the school I just moved to, and one of them was particularly just amazing, and said that they wanted to hang out at church, which I thought was bizarre, but I'd do it. And then turning up, I don't know if you've had those moments where the person speaking from the front seems to like have a specific insight into your life, and someone's tipped them off, and it was just like God knew me, and I realised that he did care for me personally, and I wanted to get to know him more. So that was when I gave my life to him.
So that's 14, 15. How was it then through sort of the rest of your teenage years and through university?
It was a great preparation. About a year afterwards, my parents got divorced, and that was pretty difficult. But I came across, on the very day actually that my parents announced it was first, and Matthew that said, "Come to me, all of you who are wearing burdened, and I'll give you rest. Cast your burdens upon me." And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to take you literally at what you said in your words, so I'll give that a go. And it's just been incredible knowing God's support through my parents' support, and actually it's been pretty difficult, and they still don't really directly talk to each other, my parents, but actually being able to support them individually and love them because I know Christ loves them. It's made a huge difference.
Great. And your youth work now, so how did that come about, and why did you end up with a biochemistry degree to then be working for a local church?
I think the funny thing about following God is his plan's always better than your plan. And I think I'd mapped out for myself a nice little career progression and path and everything. I realised that as I came to university, there might have been more purposes for me and coming here than saving the word, as I was telling it would. And yeah, just as I was a student, I got to volunteer with the youth group, and having done that, just saw that there was an amazing work that God was calling me into. And as long as that call is there, that's what I want to be doing and following, because if it's God's plan, then it's worth it.
Right. And there's a few of the guys here that are part of the youth group at Holy Trinity. So when does that meet, and how successful is that?
Peter's weeping. Yeah, the youth group meets on a Sunday evening at 6:30, and it happens at Holy Trinity Church, which is kind of opposite TK Maxx, and it goes till 7:45. And we just kind of like this, meet together, play a couple of games. We've got some really fun leaders. Look at a short part of the Bible this time, looking at what it means to be missional, and then pray together. And it's kind of a great place to be encouraged and know that you're accepted for who you are amongst people your age who believe the same thing.
Great. Well, thanks for coming today. It's great to find out a bit more about you. So thank you for taking your time to speak to us.
Pleasure.
I'll hand over to you.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, and the point that Mr. Bell made 3 very simple and very helpful points for us last week about us as a body. And that as a body, that we all form together. No one in that body is greater. No one in that body is any less than anyone else. And we all have a very specific part to play, a role that is our own. And that's kind of where we are this week. And it was all very well when we look at the body as an individual part, we think about what is our role to play. But as soon as we have to play a role with others, it gets a bit tricky, because what if we don't like the person that's sitting next to us? What if we just can't get along? Our personalities they're not compatible. You wouldn't have chosen the person to be your friend that's next to you in the body. We've got to find a way that we can relate to one another. And I want to ask the question, before we even delve too much further into the passage, what piece of advice would you give to anyone that was looking to relate to another person as kind of the most excellent, the best way to relate to another person? So what piece of advice, I think I've got a question here, would you give for how we should relate to one another? And maybe we do that just in pairs, quickly answer that question, probably about 2 minutes. What piece of advice would you give for the best way, the most excellent way of relating to another person? Go for it.
Best way to relate.
That's
You personally.
So, what, maybe we get some feedback. What ideas have people come up with of good pieces of advice of how we can relate to one another? Find things in common. Great. Yeah.
Look at each other in the eye when talking.
Okay. Absolutely.
Be nice to them in general.
Be nice in general. I like it. Very all-encompassing. Yeah. Respect. Respect. Cool.
Smile.
Smile. Always comes back to you.
Ask for their number.
Sorry.
Ask for their number.
Add them on Facebook. Yeah.
Like try and find things in common that you like or enjoy, so then you can like talk about that.
Common ground, I love it. Alright, well I asked my friend Hugh Grant what he thought about this. And he went to the effort of putting together a multi-million-pound film for me. And I thought I would show you just the introduction from that, as maybe what he would say.
Whenever I get gloomy with the state of the world, I think about the arrivals gate at Heathrow Airport. General opinion is starting to make out that we live in a world of hatred and greed. But I don't see that. It seems to me that love is everywhere. Often it's not particularly dignified or newsworthy, but it's always there. Fathers and sons, mothers and daughters, husbands and wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, old friends. When the planes hit the Twin Towers, as far as I know, none of the phone calls from the people on board were messages of hate or revenge. They were all messages of love. If you look for it, I've got a sneaky feeling you'll find that love actually is all around.
Yeah, so Hugh thinks maybe one way that we can relate to each other is in love, which thankfully, the Black Eyed Peas asked the question, where is the love? And they said, we've only got one word. Jesus was asked, what do you think the greatest commandments are? And he said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbour as yourself. And Paul, and what we're about to look at in 1 Corinthians 13 tells us that love is essential and how we relate to one another. So, if you've got a Bible in front of you, 1 Corinthians 13 is what we're going to look at. And just before we go through it, is it alright? I'll just say a quick prayer.
Page 813, so page 813.
813, correct. So is it alright if I follow your Great, so let's just pray together. Father, thank you for your word. Thank you that there's so much in it for us, and that it's even useful for teaching us here in the Leeds in 2011 how to live and love one another. We pray that you would speak through it to us today. Amen.
Amen.
If you don't mind, I'll just read through it because I think you're all sharing it. It'll be a bit difficult. So Paul starts off, and now I show you the most excellent way. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and surrender my body to the flames, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it is not rude, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when perfection comes, the imperfect disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put childish ways behind me. Now we see but a poor reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part. Then I shall know, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain, faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. And that's where Paul leaves us off. The greatest of these is love. And my first point about how, as a body, we can relate together is that without love, the body doesn't work. It might seem slightly obvious, but Paul makes it pretty clear to us in verses 1 to 3. We've got the Bible in front of us, that if we speak in tongues of men, if we have all knowledge, if we have faith that can move mountains, if we give all of our possessions away to the poor, we don't have love, we're annoying, we're a banging gong, or a clanging cymbal. We are nothing and we gain nothing. It seems to Paul that actually, without love, there's really no point. And John writes in one of his letters that if we don't love, we don't know God, because God is love. And actually, if we don't know God, we really haven't gained anything. And so the first question, the first point, really is kind of about changing our perspectives, because Paul said if we give away all of our money to the poor, but have not love, I gain nothing. And we celebrate in the world all these people who do kind of bungee jumping, and they're trying to raise money for charity, or we love the people who go on the marathon and bring more awareness for comic relief. But actually, what Paul's saying is they haven't got love. If they don't know what God's done in their lives, then there's really no purpose to all of that. And actually, we need to know what love is, and it's love that keeps us together. And so we come to my second point, which is kind of the first in reverse, kind of holds, is that love holds the body together. From verses 3 to 6, Paul starts using these words like patience, kindness, not being easily angered, words that are to do with how we relate to one another. And he says, hey, I want you to love like this, I want you to be practical in this way. But this is about teaching you how to relate with other people. So I've got an illustration about relating. Basically, I'm a bit of a science geek. So I mentioned I did biochemistry. I didn't just do it because I had to, I did it because I absolutely love it. And you'll know that the human body is made up of millions and millions, billions of cells. And every cell has a specific part and a place and a function, and it needs to relate and talk to the other cells around it so that it can do its job and help them out. For example, what's your name? Sorry. Kaya. Leia. Okay, if you're a heart cell, Leia, and what's your name? Laura. Okay, if you're both heart cells and you're next to each other in the heart and you're thinking, hey, we've got to be in rhythm. We've got to be in time so that when we're beating and we're doing what we do, blood will get sent around the body to other parts of the body, such as, Samuel. Samuel's our liver. So the liver, Samuel, leads blood from Leia and Laura to get pumped from the heart to the liver so that he can make the blood safe for the rest of the body to survive and do well. And actually, you're relying on one another there, and you two need to be working together so that he can work with you for what you're doing. And it all kind of goes around, but something needs to hold you together, something needs to make sure that you're in place. In this room,